Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman. We're going to be answering some questions about OCD. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. If you have a question that you would like me to answer on the next show, please leave it below any of the videos and let's get started. So the first question is, in your estimation, how much OCD is responsible for feeling miserable with low self-esteem, stuck in the work, money, relationships areas of life? So if you I'm answering this question for the person, obviously, who has OCD. A person can just be miserable, and that's a whole different story. But we're talking about for people who have OCD. OCD adds a level of stress normally not experienced by people who don't have it, obviously, right? So you have now another thing you have to deal with. So if you're stuck in a job you dislike, if you're having problems in a relationship, whatever areas of your life that you are not happy with, now you have an additional rock to carry, which is your OCD. So I do think it contributes, and it goes the other way as well, where if you are having other stress areas in your life, OCD can get worse because of that. So if you're having problems at work and at the same time you have OCD, then your OCD can get worse because of those problems. Because your mind interprets stress as a general thing. It doesn't interpret OCD stress versus real life stress versus some other type of stress, right? Happy stress, sad stress, because happiness is good situations that are happening in your life. For example, say if you purchased a house or purchased a car, it's a happy situation, but it's a stressful situation. Having a new baby, very stressful situation, but happy. But that can create OCD as well. So any kind of change in stress can also make OCD worse. And because you already have OCD, it can affect other areas. So it's hard to answer this question in more detail than that. Um, the solution to all this is to reduce stress across the board. So look at every area of your life. For example, let's start with the job. Do you feel overworked? Well, are you contributing to being overworked? Are you taking on more of the tasks than you really need to? Are you taking on other people's tasks? Is there anything you can delegate to another person to help you ease your workload? Is it time for a vacation? I know that's for a lot of people, that's not a luxury that they can afford, but is there something you can do to relax after work? So looking at those areas, relationship areas, is there a place where you are doing too much fighting? Too much trying to explain something, too much just doing too much, and pulling back, and it's like this with everything in life, you know you got to realize that the reason why people haven't, well, not probably only reason, but from what I see, every single client that I have talked to, um, from the beginning, when they're born, they're more sensitive than most people. So people are born more sensitive. And those people are the ones that are getting OCD. So if you are a more sensitive person than average, you need to make sure your workload is not overwhelming you. And other people don't need to understand that, but you need to understand that, and you need to cut down where you can in order to allow yourself some stress-free room in order to be able to beat it, especially if you're in the process of OCD recovery, because you can't recover from OCD when your stress is at 100% everywhere else in your life. You gotta allow yourself some room so you can bounce back. So next question. Hi Ali. Also, could you please advise, when I'm going through periods of not having the OCD thought, I'm continuously anxious that it's going to come back. So there's no real rest from it. My mind keeps saying, why aren't you having the thought? What's the reason that I'm okay at this moment? Or of not having OCD thoughts bother me? It's fear of the thought returning. I'm in recovery with all of your advice and your videos and your amazing book. Thank you, Carl. Well, you're very welcome. And this is common because your mind is attached to the anxiety. So just like I was saying in the previous question, it's attached to the stress, which is the anxiety, right? So because of that, even if you can't come up with an actual thought, the anxiety is still there. So you start to get anxious about not having a thought. The mind is just trying to find anxiety wherever it can. So what you have to do is live parallel to that noise. It's giving you anxiety, fine, but you don't have to react to it. And just continue. You're doing the work, awesome. Continue to do the work. Just every single day. It's giving you anxiety, fine. It's giving you thoughts, fine. Let it do whatever it wants to do, because right now it's kind of messed up from before, where you were doing reassurance and all the wrong things, right? So let it be, let it do what it wants to do, but you need to do the work every single day, every moment of every day. Thought comes in, you're disregarding. Another thought comes in, you're disregarding. Like how I was saying before, like a tank. Imagine yourself like a tank going and mowing everything down underneath you. That's all the thoughts you're mowing down over and over and over again. If you go like this, the mind will balance itself out. So the next question is, does OCD get worse when you're trying to give up smoking cigarettes? I would say OCD getting worse is still because you're doing reassurance. If you are under stress from quitting smoking, you are more likely to react with reassurance, because like you're more on edge. I'm not a smoker myself, so I don't really know what it feels like to be addicted to cigarettes and then trying to quit smoking cigarettes. Um, Obviously, you want to, stop the habit, right? But at the same time, I think progressing slowly as you are, so you may be doing it parallel, right? You're doing OCD recovery, slowly refusing the thoughts, and doing the addiction recovery at the same time. The the process of addiction is very similar to the process of OCD and seeking reassurance. You want to get that next fix, even though deep down inside you know it's not going to be enough and you're going to be craving more. But because with OCD, you want to have the relief, which is understandable, and with cigarettes or addiction, it's because your body is craving it, right? I mean, it's all part of the same thing. It's just saying no. But I would think that slow and steady approach would probably be best in that situation. Again, it's really hard for me to say anything about this topic because I'm not a smoker, so I don't really know. If you can, just do it cold turkey. But if you can do cold turkey both things, right? Refuse any more reassurance, refuse any more cigarettes, right? Then you probably wouldn't be in this position, right? So it really depends on what you can handle. But yeah, one can definitely aggravate another because it's adding stress. So next question is, I can't even tell if my thoughts represent just thoughts or true desire. Can you elaborate on the difference? If you are having those thoughts, is it true desire or is it just a thought? That means you have OCD and you already know that you have OCD. So it's normal for anybody who has OCD to doubt it at some point. Some people never doubt it, some people do. It's just part of some of the symptoms of OCD that you can potentially get. So that's how you have to view it. That questioning whether it's a true desire or not, or it feels like a true desire, or I kind of feel like I want this, whatever the bad thing is now. It's all of these thoughts are part of your OCD. And once you start to refuse, they will start to go away. Your brain is sending these thoughts on autopilot because the brain thinks that this situation is important to you. So it's trying to send these thoughts to kind of bring it to your attention. And it's mimicking the feelings of maybe I do want this, but it's not the same as you actually wanting this. Once you actually do the work and do continuously showing the brain that this doesn't matter, which is doing the work, these thoughts will just be nothing. They will never come back. But it takes time for the brain to unplug. So you'll get less and less and less of these thoughts the more work you do, and eventually they go away completely. And if you guys want the full overview of what I mean by doing the work and the recovery process, because I use kind of these terms because most of the people who are listening to me have been listening to pretty much all my shows from before. But yeah, check out some of my earlier shows to see what I'm talking about, because I do go in depth, but I can't go in depth in every show. Otherwise, I'll just be repeating the same thing over and over again, which is kind of what I'm doing anyways. But I'm not able to address new questions if I'm going over the same basic material. The next question is about false memory, and the person is just not sure what to do. They're fearing causing harm to another person. And with this, the more you try to analyze, the more you try to go into the situation, the worse you're going to feel. So, did this happen? Did this not happen? Trying to rethink, remember, buying into feelings of guilt, feelings of shame, feelings of what if this, what if that. All of this makes your thoughts stronger and makes it stickier, if you will. Okay, so it makes it stay rather than go. So the more you power it up, the longer it will stay. And the thing is with OCD that you have to understand that it doesn't really go away. It only goes away when you do the work, but by itself it's not one of those things. It's not like having a cold where it kind of runs its course and it goes away. With OCD, the certain specific obsession may run its course, but it will just be replaced with another obsession, such as, like, for example, when a child first gets an OCD thought, they'll say, well, I have to do this compulsion, whether mental or physical, because I'm afraid something will happen to my parents, right? Now, when that child grows up to be 50 years old, they might not have the same obsession because they might have, found other things that scare them that are, in their current lifestyle, right? So they can shift from one thought to another, but it's still giving you the same level of anxiety. So to stop the level of anxiety, you need to do the work and you need to refuse to pay attention to the thought in all of its forms. So if it's false memory OCD is not different than any other type of OCD in terms of what it is, right? It's more the details that are different. If it's about the past, of what if something happened in the past, that's a false memory. If it's about the future, then it wouldn't be a false memory, obviously, right? So that's the only difference. It's still OCD. You still need to do the same thing, and that means no reassurance. And I find that generally my clients mostly struggle with analyzing. That's kind of the most common type of reassurance that's really difficult to get rid of, because you can stop asking other people, you can stop online research, you can stop physical compulsions to an extent, but thinking about it is much more difficult. So I would say that really be focused on that. Where is your mind at all times? If it's on this topic about whatever your false memory is, right? If it's on this topic, don't let it go there. Don't address it. So your mind, okay, this is kind of going to be common knowledge for people who are listening a lot to this show, but I think it helps to reiterate it one more time. That here's the process. The person is driving, right? The person gets a thought, what if I just hit something? I remember I felt going over a curb or a bump or whatever. I feel like I hit something. What if I hit something? All of that is not the person thinking. It's coming to them. So it's the brain generating that thought on autopilot. So that's okay. But now, what is the person going to do? Are they going to say, oh yeah, let me go back and, cruise around the neighborhood a few times, then I'll check the news, then I'll try to figure it out. Those are all very common traits of driving OCD, right? So it's, am I going to do all that? Or am I going to say, no, this is OCD, I'm going to keep driving? Which one are you going to do? And every time doing the right thing and refusing, no matter how it feels, no matter what the emotions say, no matter what. Same thing with this. Are you going to respond to OCD? Are you going to give it a reaction? Because this false memory stuff, in no way, shape, or form would you be thinking about this other than now that you have OCD about this topic, right? So what you need to show to your mind is that there's nothing really wrong and there's no reason for your mind to stick to this topic, because what is the goal here in terms of OCD recovery? No matter what kind of recovery it is, false memory or otherwise, right? We want to not have these thoughts, right? In order not to have these thoughts, you have to show your mind, prove to your mind that these thoughts are not important. But the only way you can prove to your mind that these thoughts are not important is by refusing the reaction, because that part of the mind is reactionary. It's not cognitive, it's not logical in the way that you can say to it, this thought doesn't matter, and your mind says, okay, it doesn't matter, I will never send it to you again. If that worked, none of us would have OCD, right? But because that part of the mind only understands how you're reacting, and it says basically, if you're reacting with fear, I will send you the thought that you reacted with fear to. No matter what this thought is. If it's a red balloon, I'll send you a red balloon. If it's a pink elephant, I'll send you a pink elephant. If it's about you think you've killed somebody, it's going to be about you think you've killed somebody. It doesn't, or you think you're going to kill somebody in the future, it's going to be about you killing somebody in the future. It doesn't matter. It could be anything under the sun. Whatever you react to, it's going to send it to you over and over and over. It's like a clock mechanism, it just goes over and over and over until you stop it. Because that part of the mind, it's reactionary. It cannot stop the mechanism. It can start it. It can't stop it. It can only stop if it says, or if it sees that your reaction is changed. So you were reacting, then you stopped reacting. When you stop reacting with fear to this thought, what happens is the mind starts to let go. But again, because the mind is programmed in a way to keep you safe, and the only reason it's bringing up these thoughts is for your safety, right? Because you're viewing something with fear, so it's got to protect you. The only way the mind can't do anything else to protect you besides bring it up, right? Bring up the thought. What else can the mind do? So it's bringing up the thought, and when it sees that you're no longer reacting, the first go-to move usually is the mind will bring up more thoughts. And that's to protect you, because now it says, oh my God, you were reacting to it all this time. Now you suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Why did you suddenly stop? You're in a dangerous situation. And it's going to bring up a lot of anxiety. Then as it sees that you're still not reacting, it's going to start to let go of this thought slowly, little by little. So this is just the process, and you kind of have to understand how it works and just flow with it and refuse buying into the feelings. OCD controls the feelings of the person. So you will feel like you're the worst person in the universe, that it's only happening to you, that you are different from everybody else, that your OCD is different, that if you've had millions of OCD thoughts before this one, this is the one that's true, this is the one that's actually valid, and all those ones weren't valid, even though in the moment those felt real as well, right? That's kind of how OCD plays with you. So you just have to be very conscious of all that and not give in, So you say, whatever, same thing again. I'm not reacting. Is it the thought about my false memory? Oh, is it the thought about hurting somebody? Had it a million times before. Why would I react, And going through it like that over and over and over again, and you will see that you will start to feel better. And this is what I talk about when I say doing the work. You have to do the work. And it will get really difficult because your mind's going to start sending you thoughts every moment. Every moment of the day you're going to get a thought. And you have to refuse it. Every time it sends it to you, every time you refuse. Even if it's 100 times a day, it doesn't matter. Just every time refusing. And you will see that as you do this, you will progress into recovery. And the recovery is different from every person in terms of speed, right? As long as you're on the road to recovery, you will recover. But, are you going to take a few months? Are you going to take a year? Are you going to take 2 years? It depends on how much work you're doing, because it's every time you give the wrong message to your mind. So you get scared, you start to pay attention, you start to do reassurance. Every time you do this, you take a step backward on that road, And it really, nobody can do this for you, It's just doing the work day in and day out. And that's why, I do have the recovery program, right? Is that I'm supporting the person walking that road, helping them stay on the road. But they're the ones walking it, It's just being very, very cautious of that and just keeping going, every time, no matter what. If you have nobody else to help you, it's you and the road, and you still have to keep going. And every time the thought comes in, choosing to not pay attention, choosing to what feels like taking that chance and refusing. It's not really taking a chance, because you've taken a million chances by this point. But, and so have all of my clients. And in not one case of any of my clients has their thought come true the way they thought it was, So it's never true. It's always OCD, but it feels like you're taking a chance, but you have to take that chance in order to recover and refuse the fear and the analyzing and all of that. So anyways, I digress, but I feel like sometimes I do need to repeat it because I do have new listeners, and they're not sure what I'm talking about. But also for the old listeners, it's nice to hear the correct recovery process again, so you know where you're going wrong. And most people go wrong on doing analyzing, so thinking about the situation for long periods of time throughout the day. That's where most people go wrong. Some people do physical compulsions and all of that too, but it's the analyzing. It's by far the number one problem for 99% of people who have OCD, I would say. So next question is, what if someone with mental health OCD is watching recovery videos such as yours and reading about it because he wants to feel better? Is that actually a compulsion? It can be. It can be a compulsion. It depends on how the person is watching them. Are they watching with fear to try to make sure that they have OCD, or are they watching in order to understand how the brain works and what they need to do to recover? If you're watching from a position of fear, then you are giving into OCD, and you need to shift it to the position of power. This one is a hard one because you do need the information on how to recover in order to recover, but people do get obsessed with the process of recovery and doing it properly because there's so much mixed opinions. And I can tell you, like, I talk to so many people, and I would say 80% of the people have really bad therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists who really don't know what they're talking about, yet they actually, to be honest with you, they don't even act like they know what they're talking about. Like, they're not trying to pretend that they do. They're just like, I'm not sure, and then they give the person more OCD, so the person kind of has to become their own recovery coach, and with that you need information. So I would say that if you feel like you're getting a little bit obsessed about the process of recovery, pull back for a few days, see how you feel, because you don't want to create a compulsion out of it, but at the same time you need the info, right? So it kind of depends. Guys, thank you for all the kind words, by the way. Like, I read all the comments and they're just so sweet. I don't want to read them because it's, kind of, but I am seeing them and I am reading them, and I'm thankful for them. So next question, the person's asking, when you cut out compulsions, the person's getting irritation, which is like a 10 out of 10 level irritation. And what is it? Why is it happening? Basically, the anger, the irritation happens because in your mind you have a situation that's unsolved and you're refusing it, but at the same time you're under stress. So say if somebody comes into the room and asks you, oh, can you help me with this, or does anything to needs anything from you, right? It's going to cause you irritation, because what you really want to do is you want to solve this OCD thought, and everything else that you're doing is taking away from that, and you can't focus, and that's the conflict that's happening. There is nothing really you can do about it in this stage. The only thing I would suggest is changing your view on things that are happening around you besides OCD. Okay, so all those things that are irritating you, that are taking you away from trying to analyze, even though you're refusing to analyze, but still, kind of making you do more things, basically, when you're already at, your highest stress level. There are also ways for you to refocus your mind. So in a sense, they are a positive thing, and anytime you're getting interrupted, every time you are getting irritated with something else, that something else is probably what you actually should be focused on, rather than focusing on the OCD thoughts. So try to welcome it as a distraction. Like, that's a good thing. This is what you need to do. And the more you distract yourself and show your mind, no, I don't want to be thinking of this OCD stuff, or even focusing on the recovery of the OCD, right? Because that's kind of still thinking of the OCD, right? I'm gonna go and do this instead. Overall, obviously you are focused on the recovery, but I'm not gonna research OCD recovery. I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm gonna go play with my kids, or I'm gonna go do some work, or whatever it is that you need to do. Or if you are already at work, I'm gonna focus on work. I'm not gonna focus on the OCD stuff. And if you can't do it for the entire day, which you probably won't be able to, right? I would say even try to do it for a few hours. So, okay, for the next hour, I'm doing this. I'm not focusing on any of that. Then after the hour passes, see if you can go another hour. So that way you're still kind of putting yourself in the power seat and showing your mind that I'm no longer afraid. I don't have to deal with this. I'm instead focusing on something else. Try not to analyze generally things as is it real or is it not? Is this OCD or is it not? The very act of doubting a thought as possibly being OCD, the very act of you watching this video right now or listening to this video right now means that it's OCD. Because if it wasn't OCD, you would not be even thinking about it. You know, if you think back to any situation in your life that was actually a real situation, that was dangerous, stressful, maybe you've done something bad, and we're all human, we've done bad things at some point in our lives, right? If at that point you have never thought of, oh, this is maybe OCD, maybe I haven't done anything, maybe it's just OCD, you knew what happened, right? Or if something bad happened to you, again, you knew what happened, you know sometimes OCD can attach to that, where you'll have a false memory of, I know what happened here, here, and here, but what if something else happened, or something more happened, or it happened in some other way? You know what I mean? So it attaches to a real memory as well. But again, what you're worried about is not true. So you have to stop allowing yourself to analyze. And I swear to you stop allowing yourself to analyze, you will start to feel better. But without it, you're going to keep going and going and going. And I mean, it will never stop unless you stop your reaction. So I'll leave you with those words. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you would like to start the recovery program, it's available on youhaveocd.com. Just sign up, go through the sign up process, pick the package that works best for you. I'll give you an email back and we can start within a few days. There's also ebooks, articles, all that kind of stuff available, so please check that out. And I will see you in the next show.